just as we get going, I'm curious, you've been on other calls. Have you been on this particular call before?
No, this is the first time.
Nice. Okay. I'm gonna be quiet now and let Ashish take it away.
Okay. Hello everyone, welcome back to Meshery Build and Release call. This call takes place every other week, which is second and fourth Thursdays, every other month, every other week of the month. Sorry, my tongue got twisted there. So it takes place every other Thursday, second and fourth, and today is the second Thursday, hence the meeting. And if this is your first time on the call, please, we would like to get to know about you. So the introductions would start now. And just before introduction start, I will paste the link to this meeting minutes in the chat so that everyone can write the name in the meeting minutes. If you already don't have the access, please ask for the access so that basically if you fill the newcomers form, you get the access to all the meeting minutes, whether it's this call or any other call. So make sure you have the proper access. Okay, so before we get going, I think Alberto, this is your first time in the call, so would you like to introduce yourself? Say something about yourself, like.
Sure. Yeah. Well, I I've been working as a software engineer in like an industrial type of industrial type of products, mainly warehousing. But I always liked the cloud native technologies and all of that cool stuff. I've been working with Kubernetes and service meshes for a couple of years now. And I just got into this thing called open source. And yeah, I raised already a couple of PRs for the propagating some changes on the adapters. And I was looking forward to help with the workflows as well, and like bring all the adapters to like to the best of my ability to the working state. And yeah, that's it for me. I'm from Mexico, by the way, if you were wondering.
The accent didn't give it away. It didn't. No, Alberto. Hey, where about in Mexico?
Mexico City. Yeah, just the biggest one. Yeah.
Oh, yeah, very good. Oh, nice. Yeah, I'm curious, man. So since there's only a few of us here, we get to break the ice and really welcome you. I'm curious. So is part of your focus then on like either like building automation or like physical security systems, like or are there any IoT type things that you focus on,
or mainly physical systems. So I don't know how familiar are you guys with industrial type of technologies like PLCs and like all the beefy controllers that are mounted on the racks, like on the conveyors and all of that stuff. So yeah, that's the type of product I've been working on.
Yeah, nice. So do you right? In some respects, kind of like it sort of falls under the category of IoT, or like to the extent that those are embedded systems that you're dealing with. I'm assuming that some of those PLCs, some of those robots, if you will, those robotics are those embedded environments, like firmware environments you're dealing with?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I've been working with
Oh, nice. Okay, yeah, your voice cut out at the end, but yeah, cool. Okay, well, thanks for indulging me. That was great. That's
Okay. Thanks for the introduction, Alberto. And so I think Yahaya, I think is your first time as well on this call, right? Would you like to introduce yourself?
Hello, everyone. My name is Yahaya, and this is my first time here, but I have attended a lot of meetings, actually. I'm a front-end developer, and I mostly contribute to Meshery UI, but this is my first time here. Hello, everyone.
Oh, hi. It's nice of you to hop on the call. Thanks for joining. I think Sohail, is it your first time? Because I don't see the last name, so I'm not really sure. If it is your first time, then would you like to introduce yourself? Uh, you're not you're unmuted, but the audio isn't coming through, so I guess there might be some issues with the mic. Anyways, you can introduce yourself in the chat. So let's start rolling with the agenda items. So the first item is about the failing tests in Meshery adapter. So if there's a compatibility matrix that we maintain, which has the source of truth, which basically there are end-to-end tests that run inside of each of the service mesh adapters, and the results of these end-to-end tests are then reflected on this compatibility matrix that you see over here. And as you can see on the H channel, the test for Meshery Istio adapter was failing. So when I gave it a quick look, there were a bunch of issues. I have reran the test right now because there was a Meshery release which kind of fixes some of the issues, but few of the issues are still pending. So just to like the straightforward pull request that I have over here, basically uh, we migrated from ohm to mesh model, which is to say that ohm was a different format, internal format in which we an internal format using which we would define the resources, define the atomic components that help build basically any mesh that can be composed into one mesh deployment, which we call a design or a pattern. So basically, we used to you have a different architecture, and when we moved to mesh models, we had all these definition files generated for the new for mesh models as well, but the one for Grafana Istio add-on was missing, due to which one of the tests were failing because the test file for Grafana Istio add-on, basically the definition file for Grafana Istio add-on was missing, and these definition files basically help. So just like in Kubernetes, you have custom resource definitions that help you define what those custom resources are. In the same way, in Meshery, the atomic unit of deployment is a component, and these are the definitions of those components. So you can deploy, if you're running Istio, you can deploy a Grafana Istio add-on, and this is the definition file which defines things about the Grafana Istio add-on. For example, and this is a core component, which is to say that like we have different adapters for each of the service meshes, and one thing that allows us to do is to augment extra features on top of what that particular service mesh already has to offer. So this Grafana Istio add-on is not like a custom resource offered directly by Istio, but it's a functionality you get with Meshery. The same you get with Prometheus and with Zipkin, with some tracing, other tracing libraries like Jaeger. So out of the box, you can just drag and drop, let's say, a Jaeger component, and you can deploy Jaeger. You can drag and drop Prometheus and Grafana, and you can deploy. And a custom Grafana, custom Prometheus installation for Istio would be deployed. So for Grafana, the definition files were missing. So on the end-to-end test, what we try to do is to we take a design and we deploy that design. Inside of that design, there are three different designs that are being deployed. As you can see, one design just simply deploys an Istio service mesh. The other one deploys the Istio service mesh along with the Grafana and Prometheus Istio add-ons. And since the Grafana Istio the definition for the Grafana Istio add-on was missing, the deployment was failing. So this PR adds that. And in the definition file, you can see there are things like the kind, the display name. The metadata is very specific to UI. So you have mesh map designer, using which you can basically configure your components, and these define the SVG colors and this different attributes of the different properties of that particular node. And yeah, and this is the schema. Schema is to say that I won't go in what schema is, but yeah, it helps in validation. So when you specify things inside of here, so let's say that you specify a namespace, you specify a version, you specify some extra things inside of properties, like inside of settings, you specify that I want the profile as demo. So we use schema to validate that for this particular component, there is a definition which supports this particular setting, that you can set profile as demo, or let's say as default for Istio mesh. So yeah, so Grafana Istio add-ons definition files were missing, and this PR adds just that. So this should fix the some of the tests at least. And there is an ask for volunteers over here. That's why I have picked this item from on the top. The first task is that there is a let me pull it. It's the integration spreadsheet. So we have an integration spreadsheet, and basically almost all we try to cover all the cloud native projects. And using this particular spreadsheet, we generate components, the component definitions that I just talked about. We generate these component definitions for each of the projects that are available in in the entire CNCF ecosystem, and some more. So, and for each of these basically each of these models that we generate. So whenever I use the word model, you can imagine that as the parent of a component. So if like service and pod are components, then model would be Kubernetes. If virtual service is a component, then model would be Istio. And a model can have not just components, but relationships as well, and something like policy as well. So it's a bit generic term. So that's why we have these rows where we define a particular model, and sometimes even components per model. And here, as you can see that the column names were switched from uppercase to lowercase over here, subcategory, as category, and model display name. But inside the adapter, where we have the actual definition files, it's still the uppercase and space separated values. So yeah, we need to change this to reflect what exactly is mentioned over here. So this is a very minor thing, if someone wants to pick this thing up, to switch, to move from to basically to make sure that the metadata inside of each of these component definitions reflects the exact column names that are inside of the integration Meshery integration spreadsheet. I'll paste the link of this spreadsheet in the chat. So that's one call out. Another call out would be that over here, so basically here we define like so for first of all, like we have this thing called services, and this thing would in future be deprecated. So when I use the word components, previously we used to use the word services, but this would soon be changed to something like which is more appropriate to the new model, which is components, because Istio in this case, like Istio Mesh is a component and Grafana Istio add-on is a component. One thing that is missing over here is the model that I just talked about. So for Istio Mesh and Grafana Istio add-on, from Prometheus Istio add-on, the model name should also be present. So I'll create an issue for this just after this call. And if someone wants to just add a model quickly over here, they can. And most actually, I did add the model in my pull request, but we, as I said, that whenever a change is made to like one adapter, we need to make that same change across the other adapters as well. So inside of Linkerd adapter, if we'll go to, let's say, the install directory, and there are the demo design file over here. Here also we just specify the type, we just specify the name, and this version which is left empty, there is a step inside of there is a job inside of the workflows that we run, which fills this version to the latest version of the particular service mesh that we're trying to test, so that we're always testing with the latest version of that particular service mesh. A model field needs to be added over here. So the same goes for all the adapters as well. So like this file is present in all the other adapters as well, and depending upon what adapter it is, there is an ask for adding a model field, and that this model field that will be added over here. So this is like the actual instance of that particular component where you ask Meshery to deploy this thing, and inside of you'll go templates and mesh model components, and these are version directories, and here you'll find the definition files which describe what that deployment is. So if, for example, if I go over here, you'll find, okay, so it's pretty unreadable, like it's a single line thing, but if I move over, you'll find the model name as it'll be most probably something like Kuma, depending upon what the service mesh is. So in this particular case, it's pretty hard to read it over here. So if I take an example of Kuma mesh, let's say, or a different resource, basically a quick way to figure out what that particular thing is to go in the build directory, and here inside of config.go, where you actually, so one leftover task from so I'm hopping, but this is the second actual tangible thing that's needed, and one of these changes were made by Kobe, I guess, and the other in some other adapter it was made by someone else. I guess it was Gopi. I'm forgetting the name of the other person, but yeah. Yeah, so in this particular, so just to give you a context of what I'm talking about, in Istio adapter, in all the adapters, the metadata that I just showed you inside of each of the definitions used to be in the config.go file, but we had extracted it out inside of this mesh model metadata.json. So the same has to be true for Kuma as well, let's say. So this is a simple task. So like it's already been done in Istio. So you can look at what the code is and you can take these particular fields out into a JSON. And when you do that, make sure that you switch these primary color, secondary color inside of this JSON file to reflect just like what I said, it's the column names of this particular spreadsheet, so that all of them are lowercased, and yeah, all of such that all of them are lowercase. Eventually what we would need is that another workflow which this will be an open issue, so that like if someone updates a particular field over here, so let's say I make subcategory, that I make it like a capital Y. So once we do this in Meshery, there is an automated component updater workflow that actually runs and updates everything automatically. Here, the JSON file is not updated automatically, which is just the metadata.json file. So this describes the metadata of each of the components, and the metadata of all the components of this particular adapter. Each of the component can have its own, like they can override this particular JSON file, but this is like the common abstract JSON file, which can be later overridden by any of the component. But right now we use a generic metadata. So all of these two components have the same logo, SVG, and everything else. They can differ if you want to. But yeah, so the first thing would be to convert this thing into, so instead of manually updating these fields, I don't know what will be a good investment depending upon how, like who volunteers for what. A quick fix would be just to switch these names to what's being reflected over here. And because we don't usually change these names very frequently, these names are actually never changed unless very necessary. So I don't know how, but still the values of these columns can change. So tomorrow someone can come and let's say update the primary color of this particular thing. This change would be reflected in Meshery server, but not in adapter, because there is no workflow that does that. So if you want to like get started with the GitHub workflow, you want to write, then this is a great like you can do this, which is to say that you create a JSON file from this particular spreadsheet. And the way to do is that you'll go to the spreadsheet, and there is a CSV file that I'll give the link to this particular CSV file, basically the link from where you can generate the CSV file for this particular spreadsheet. All you'll have to do is for the model name Istio, if you'll scroll all the way down, so you'll have to parse this particular spreadsheet. And if there is already a GitHub action that you know about that does exactly this, that parses the spreadsheets and allows you to perform actions of particular fields, then well, that's a good, I mean, that would be good for us. Otherwise, all you have to do is you'll have to look at this spreadsheet on, like, here is the model name, which is Istio. And for Istio, you extract this things like primary color and things like secondary color and logo URL and SVG color and SVG white, and the workflow extracts these things and generates a JSON file and pushes it over here. And then the config.go file just loads it in the initialization routine over here. So which already been done in Istio adapter. Okay, so just to summarize, there were three asks, actually two. One is the fact that for the adapters where it has already not been done, we need to externalize this particular config file, this map string interface, into a JSON file, which is the task one. Another one is the need for a workflow. So of course, the first thing, as I said, that you can manually update it, but I don't know if that's desirable. Yeah, I mean, that's kind of desirable because that will quickly, get us from this particular large casing to lower casing. But a long-term solution would be to write a workflow that parses this particular spreadsheet and updates the JSON file that's present over here inside of build directory. So yeah, that these are the to-do items, and the call out for propagation was about just the propagation of this particular change, which was the mesh model underscore metadata.json file. And if you want to a reference, then I think there is some closed PR I guess it is, yeah, this is one is from Gopi. So Gopi had made this change. You can take this as a reference here. I mean, it was previously inside of here, just like it is currently inside of Kuma adapter. It is inside a map string interface, and it was moved out into the JSON file and then just marshaled inside. So I'll paste the link to Gopi's PR as well. that you can use as a reference. Yeah, and I'll also note down the, so if you want to put your name over here on the call out for propagation, please do so. And if you want to also, so I'll just call out for workflow, call out as I described the workflow that is needed to update the metadata .json inside of adapters. If you want to take this up, there will be an issue that will be created after. And as all of these meeting minutes are posted in the discuss.layer5.io, and there these meeting minutes will be posted with the link of the issue, so you can grab those issues from there if you're not comfortable right now. If you have any doubts regarding any of these things, you can ask me now, or on Slack, or on the discuss form, anywhere you find comfortable. And if anyone has any questions regarding what was just talked about, please ask them, or I'll move with the next agenda item. I hope I wasn't being too fast with whatever I was speaking, and I was coherent enough for everything to make sense. Does anyone have any doubts? Okay.
Yeah, wait. Just wait. Yeah, we can't go for 20 minutes and then not have anybody have. So let's give them a moment to let it settle in, and for some folks to kind of repeat it back or sort of.
The only question that I have is, you had mentioned the end-to-end tests and you had gone through some of the workflow on GitHub, I guess, and I'm just unfamiliar with GitHub in that capacity, and running, like troubleshooting the tests, as it's doing the end-to-end testing, I need to be able to go back and look to see specifically what's wrong in order to troubleshoot it. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Can you elaborate on that a little bit, maybe?
About which particular thing? About?
But just in general, like so a lot of us haven't used GitHub Actions a ton, or GitHub, and actually the fact that there's a GitHub Actions and GitHub Workflows are slightly confused between the two. So I'm speaking on Colby's behalf, but he'll correct me. So he's relatively new to it, gets the fact that there's a red X that needs like attention, and so
right.
Yeah.
So yeah.
So,
okay.
So yeah, as it's going through the checks, it's giving output, it's giving error. So I need to be able to see those errors so that I can cross-reference, and troubleshoot in that capacity. If you want these errors to be fixed, then I need to be able to see, what's going on with it. And so I'm just unfamiliar with how this works.
Okay, so like each of these each of these jobs are broken down into these steps, and for this particular specific test that I'm showing you, the actual you can say the magic happens, or the actual command that executes, this is the pattern apply step, or the design apply, whatever you can call it. And this is where it actually sends over this design that I was just talking about to Meshery server, and this is exactly the error that you get. This particular error reflected the fact that it couldn't reach the port 10,000, and 10,000 port in this case is the port where the adapter is supposed to be running. So you make a request to Meshery server, and then Meshery server delegates the request to adapter, because adapter had registered the component definitions that I just talked about. So the the Meshery Istio adapter had told Meshery server that, hey, I know what Istio mesh is, and I know what Grafana Istio add-on is. You just delegate the request to me, and I'll handle those, and I'll deploy these things on behalf of you. So when Meshery tried to do this in this particular step, it failed to do so because it couldn't establish a TCP connection. There is a gRPC call that's being made under this underlying on top of this TCP connection. On this, on different, so let me go over this particular this is the workflow. And these are the instances of those workflows. So there are three main jobs. Like here, you'll see a set of three jobs everywhere for each of the versions, or for each of the designs that against which we try to test. The first one just does exactly that I had talked about. It makes sure that the deploy.yaml, the design file that you have, has the latest version. So it goes to that particular service mesh and updates the version. So this is the first job. this job always succeeds because you're in most cases, unless there is an API rate limit and it wasn't able to basically made that lookup to find out what was the latest version of that service meshes, mostly this particular job passes. The second job actually does all the heavy lifting, and this is a type of job where it says that this uses keyword basically allows one job to use another workflow, and this particular workflow is defined in the Meshery repo. And so you can imagine this as a black box. All it does is it tries to deploy the design that you just gave it, and it tries to make some assertions. So in this case, it will try to assert that there was a pod. There should be a pod started in Istio system namespace with the prefix of, or it should include Istio, and the same goes for Istio egress gateway, and the same goes for Istio ingress gateway. So it makes these assertions, and then these results are processed and they are given to this update docs. And in most cases, these are skipped. These are skipped whenever it's a pull request. We don't want to update docs whenever someone makes a pull request. But this update docs request is this update docs job is actually run when you make a edge release or you make a stable release, which is reflected over here, just as I showed you. So if you click on stable channel, you'll get the results, all the results of the stable, all the results when this update docs ran on the whenever a release was made on edge channel. You'll see the results whenever basically a merge was made inside of Meshy server, which Meshy adapters, which triggered an edge release. And the first place to come and look where everything is working, whether everything is working fine or not, is this place. So I can see on the edge channel currently the Istio tests are failing, and then the OSM tests are failing. And sometimes these are our fault. Sometimes what happens is that in a lot of cases, we hit an API rate limit because we are running these tests so frequently. So in some cases, as I said, that we need to set up Minikube. So sometimes even the Minikube is not able to get like set up, so the test failed. So but that's not reflective of the fact that actually something was wrong with us. But in this particular case, okay, yeah, so coming back to this particular spreadsheet, to this particular action, I should say, the first page to look at is the pattern apply. And this is the same as if you run Meshery pattern apply and you try to apply a pattern or a design. Whenever I say pattern and design, these words are synonymous, at least for now. And as we move to the new mesh model I was talking about, they will diverge in their meaning. And this is similar to when you click on deploy button inside of this is the command line version of what happens when you click on deploy button if you're using mesh map designer or if you're using design configurator. So yeah, it tried to apply this pattern and then it failed, and this was the and I know this is not like the and whenever we get these kind of results, it's kind of reflective of the fact that maybe basically, yeah, this was returned from Meshery CTL. So maybe Meshery CTL needs to handle these particular error messages much more, you can say, much more in a user readable sense, so that like you can look at this particular pattern apply step and you don't have to figure out what does this gibberish means, what do you mean it wasn't able to. So for people who already know the internal architecture, they would understand that yeah, it wasn't able to connect to that particular adapter. But for any for a user coming from outside, it might not make much sense. So yeah, there's an open need over here in the Meshery CTL as well, that to update these particular errors. I know these weren't very helpful. And if I go over to this different version and I look at the pattern apply step, this is the same exact error that I get. But I was still debugging this before this particular call. There is a whole status for debugging where we do kubectl up get all everything, and here you can see that the Meshery Istio adapter is running actually, and it listens on port 10,000. So this shouldn't have failed. The request should have been able to reach the Istio Meshery Istio pod, but it failed. For some of these, it had a different reason. No, right. Currently, before I made the fix, the reason was different. In this particular in my particular PR, the previous reason has been whatever the reason. Basically, the error message has changed, and I count that as progress. At least if the error message changes, that's a progress. So yeah, I'll debug this thing on my own. I'm not asking to like debug this particular thing. I'll try to debug it. But yeah, one like here you can see that model was added as Istio. The same needs to happen across other adapters as well. We need to add this model field inside of each of the service. That was one of the asks for the ask for the volunteers. And one more thing is that since Lee's also here, I would just like to mention that in Meshery server, when we generate because as you can see from the spreadsheet, we have Istio components there. The model name is all lowercase, but here it is all uppercase. So I guess we should go with all lowercase, just like we have over here in the spreadsheet.
Yeah, that particular that particular word is sourced from our Meshery's own core components. Is that right? Kind of core traits.
Yeah, I mean, this thing is currently hard-coded in all of the components that exist in adapters.
It makes sense
it's-
that it was lowercase.
Okay. So yeah, I'll just, this is the third item. This is like Control F and Control R, find and replace. So inside of Meshery Istio, you'd find that just like I said, that inside of templates, mesh models, you'll find all these components that I was talking about. So you don't have to do it like individually in each one of them. It's just a Control F, Control R, wherever there is a capital ISTIO, just replace that with lower, so that it changes in all of the definition files that we have over here. So that's a that's another thing. I hope I was able to answer Kobe's question about this particular how this particular workflow is laid out, what each of these jobs do, and where to look at whenever you in the context of this particular workflow. The first place to look at is I mean, the names are pretty suggestive. Like in this particular step, it tries to download that pattern file that we just generated, and in this particular step, it tries to they just run sleep. So when you click on this particular step, it actually shows you the exact command that ran on that step. So in this step, we just ran sleep for 100 seconds to make sure that after we have started Meshery, because it might take some time depending upon like how much because we are so frequently using these GitHub actions, so things might be slow for a while. So that's why we wait for some time, and then we do this pattern apply, and then we again sometimes we wait again. There is a reason why we do this twice, but this is where it happens for the second time. And because it's like kubectl apply, the pattern apply command is also idempotent, which is to say no matter how many times you apply it, it doesn't basically it will be just it will make the same exact change. It will applying it one or n times means the exact same thing. And then here you have the logs for the adapters and logs for the Meshery server to further debug if there was an issue. So as you can see, the Meshery server logs also say that it tried to reach, but it couldn't reach. So there's some internal networking issue that's happening over here. And inside of here, you can see that it's listening at port 10,000. And here you can see that it tried to reach it at the port 10,000, but it failed to reach at the port 10,000. So one pod is not able to make a connection to this Istio adapter pod in this particular workflow. So yeah, that's the issue here. And this particular issue, why these tests are failing, I have taken this up, so I'll fix this by today. And I was just going through each of these steps to make sure that everyone knows what each of these steps do. And basically, whenever you create a pull request in Meshery adapter, what happens here is that there is we create a Docker image, a test Docker image to run a test container by checking out the code of your particular SHA commit. So whatever commit you made in your pull request, that code will be checked out, and that code would be built into a Docker image and then will be run as a Docker container over here. So the Meshery logs that you're getting, these are from the Meshery release. This Meshery pod is from the Meshery release, and the adapter container, this actually reflects the code that you had made. So in this particular request I have made, and that's how we test it. So that if maybe you make some changes in the Istio adapter and you break something, and these tests would start to fail because the container that would be built from your commit. So yeah, that was that was me going over this whole thing. If anyone still has any doubts, you can ask, or again, You can ask on Discuss. You can ask on a bunch of other places. It would be nice if out of 3 tangible action items, you pick some up. Which one? Which is this one is pretty. I would say this one would take time to create a workflow. You may also need to have some experience in GitHub Actions for this particular thing. Propagation is always easy because it's already been done at one place, and then you can learn about the code while making a small change. First small changes, the first changes, it's always nice to have small changes as a first change. Anyways, so yeah. Okay, let me move over to the next item. Actually, I'll put this rate limit item after it because I think Subedi has an item so that I don't lose time. Subedi, would you like to talk about your workflow to update discussion files?
Yeah. I'll share my screen. Just a minute. Okay. So currently, before I go on to explain the issue, I'll just quickly discuss about what the issue, like where is the issue originating from. So as Ashish mentioned earlier, we have a discussion forum where uh, where people can ask questions, or any other topics that can be listed out can appear here. Like we have discussion forums, and what our current initiative is that we wanted to integrate these discussion forums in our websites, be it in Docs website or in the Meshery.io website. And for the integration, what we have choose is that this discuss forum is operated in Discourse, and Discourse gives us a list of APIs that helps us to like bring the data from that helps us to bring a data in a JSON form. Suppose if you want to have data of Meshery tag, then we get this cute little, like nice little uh, link from which we can get all the data that are all the data or all the topics that are present with the tag Meshery. So what we do currently is that we like curl we take this data, this JSON data, and use this as our data source for the integration in different websites. And to update this periodically, we do it through GitHub workflow, which similarly, which sources, let's quickly, yeah, which sources that exact same link, right? This message.json link, and then makes it tries to commit the change, commits the changes. But what currently we are facing is that the workflow to update this discussion file is not working for like both of the repository. And there are two like methods that are applied on both of these repository. One was, I guess, Deepak's PR, and another one was what I did, and both of them are failing. So yeah, I think I would like a solution for this so that I can rectify it. So this one is using the Meshery.io is using auto commit action, right? And this is the error it gets. At least one proving review required by.
Did you pass the
Yeah.
proper tokens?
Yeah, I did pass the proper token. Like,
Yeah. It's,
Actually, you have to pass that on checkout. In the checkout action, if you if you take as any other particular like any GitHub action where we make these pushes, like there are a bunch of them. I think at the checkout we pass that particular token.
okay, wait. I'll quickly check. Can you have anything on your mind? I guess just
The end-to-end test in adapter would be like first thing that will come to my mind.
but what that does, I think that works.
Instead of the can you open another one? Another work. I mean, on this particular adapter, the end-to-end, the update, that particular job that I was showing, update docs job inside of here. And just on the action checkout. It doesn't have it on commit. Yeah, here repository, and it takes token. So GH and this secret sort, you have to pass this.
Okay,
this is an all
but
white.
one thing, this is like checking out from a different adapter and then pushing it to the Meshery adapter, right? But that thing is it's itself situated in Meshery repository itself. So do we still need to pass this token?
Yeah, most probably. Yeah. Where is that workflow again? Can you go back? Where is it?
Yeah, it's in Meshery repository itself. This is
There's a different example. I'll point it out, but yeah, it's just missing the global token. In this case, it's not invoked via dispatch, but via cron. So it's not passed in. It's not passed in, but it's just locally listed. But you guys are absolutely on the right trail. And to Gopi's comment, yeah, great comment, Gopi. In this case, the reason that it needs admin is because the master branch is, well, it has branch protection rules on it. Only two. Really, the two rules equate to enforcement of before a merge commit can be made on master, which is to say before a PR can be merged to master branch. One peer reviewer has to approve, and that peer reviewer, maybe Subedi can finish my sentence, but that peer reviewer has to have write access to like everybody here is absolutely encouraged to review PRs. It's such a great, A, it's very helpful. B, it's a great way of learning. C, I almost put up the, anyway. C, it is, I almost flipped everybody off, sorry. C, it feels great to the person who created the PR because then they get more feedback. This is great. Review PRs, I can't encourage it enough. Not to demoralize anyone from doing that, but just as a matter of process, a matter of those branch protection rules, why it is that the token that's used has to have admin permission is because that rule needs to be overridden, and a robot user with an admin level privilege can override that requirement. Anyway, normally though, as any of us regular users go around and review things, if you've been around long enough, your user would eventually have write permission to the repo. And so your review would count in more ways than one. I mean, it would count in terms of the system that the branch protection rule.
okay. So using a GH global access token here in the checkout itself, I think that will solve the issue.
Yeah, really close. Yeah, it ended up being global underscore token. I'll find you an example. But yeah, same.
And and about the one more thing I wanted to about the approach for the commit, like do we use this way or the GitHub auto commit action? So this is like
the reason
running it.
Yeah, somebody else might have an answer. You're right. It is Gopi might even know this. Maybe it was Dinesh.
It was Dinesh. The
okay.
errors are different though, yeah.
And that might just be, anyway, there's a couple of different GitHub actions floating around. GitHub actions, by the way, are just like prepackaged workflows, because a lot of times you want to do like the same thing in a workflow, like checkout, like push to a repo. So there's some GitHub action here that somebody wrote, and we're just using that one. So they have different behaviors. And yeah, Subedi is correct that there's one that works better for us than the other, and it does have to do with, some of it has to do with permission. It might be that we're seeing a different error here because of the lack of that token. So I couldn't tell you from memory which of the two actions is the one. When I do send the example though, it'll be of the exact same workflow that runs it. Wait, I thought you were running this. Weren't you running this in? Oh, I thought you were just looking at one in Meshery.io. But you're looking at it.
This is for Meshery. This is Deepak's. This is Deepak's workflow.
Oh, okay.
And this, wait, yeah, this is for the Meshery.io that I made. That uses this thing, auto commit action.
I see. Okay. Yeah. You know what? So Ashish, one of the standing agenda items is to go over all of our workflows. What do they mean? Where are they running? What do they affect? Anyway, yeah, we get a ton of workflows. And so anyway, yeah, that's fine that it's running here. I mean, that workflow is running in the Meshery repo and it's going to affect the other repo. That's fine. No issue. And yeah, it does affect which one of these actions works better, and it does affect which token to use. We have tokens documented, like, wait a second, there's a bunch of secrets running around, right? You can see the, well, I don't know if there's any secrets listed here. Yeah, there are no secrets listed here, but the secrets, what they are and what their purpose is, there's a Google Doc in the community drive that defines what secrets are available. So GitHub_access token is one. There's another one called global_token. And to my recollection, they are in fact the very same token. There's one robot account. The name of the account is L5IO. And so that service account, that robot account, it's token that we use inside of the GH_access or the global token. It's just, and so yeah, I do think that one of these actions, this Stefan Weissel, or whatever his name is, one of them works better for dispatching, while the other one maybe works better for local checkout and commit of the same repo.
Okay then.
Thank you, Aditya. Okay. So as Lee just talked about this thing, there's a place for this thing, and this thing is to say which workflow runs where and on what triggers does it run, and all of these things. And this is encapsulated in Meshery test plan, the link to which is inside of the meeting minutes. And here you'll see two sheets. I talked about this in the last call as well. Most of you folks were here. So this particular sheet covers around like 235 different test scenarios, and it goes over all these test scenarios. Some of these test scenarios are user dependent, which is to say, if you go and look at the first row, it says that the test group is installation, and basically, can I use Meshery CTL with the bash script to basically this particular bash script to install Meshery. This is a test scenario, and this should be the expected outcome. So if you're, as I said last time, if you're going through like Meshery and if you're testing things out around it, the test plan is a great place to come and look what would be the expected, what should be the expected behavior. So if you try to use this particular script to install, let's say Meshery, then let's say you don't get this particular expected outcome. So you can have your name over here and your name listed over here in the notes, and then you can take this particular any of the like 5 to 10 rows or any set of rows, and you can test these things out, especially the ones which require user intervention. And then you can open issues if basically something doesn't run according to what the expected outcome of that particular row is. And in some cases it's harder to come back over here and to keep track of each of these rows. So some behavior might actually have been changed through like past few months. So if you it would be very so this is like a good call out for people to make changes to these particular rows as well. So for example, if you try to deploy Meshery on Docker and using this particular command and using these set of environmental variables, are you able to do it successfully? And so it's good to have your name listed over here in the basically the notes, and you can make your own notes over here that I try to test it and this is what comes up. Maybe this is a bug, maybe this is something like a suggestion that it shouldn't do this and that. So this is kind of a behavior tracking place where we track behavior of each of these all of these different scenarios that we have. All the way at the bottom, if I'll go sorry, it's my mouse track that I can't keep track of because of wait a second. Yeah, so right at the bottom here you have test related to like provisioning, the test related to I see. Okay, actually the Zoom pop-up is coming, so that's why I'm losing track of my, yeah. So here you can see that like the end-to-end test that I was just talking about, these tests are covered right at the bottom of the spreadsheet. So some of these things need to be deprecated so that like network service mesh, this needs to go away. So these particular things, so if you, as you go and contribute to adapters, the Meshery test plan is something that you should always have opened up in one of the tabs to cross-check the current behavior, to make sure that you edit these particular rows, to make sure that, hey, we no longer support this thing or this behavior has changed, and to reflect that over here. So that's on this particular spreadsheet. And on the automated tests / builds, this was updated last week as well. And I mean, like for example, so Vedi, as you go to add the particular workflow that you had just added, like it's a if we don't already have this particular link to this particular spreadsheet in the template of the, so whenever you add whenever you create an issue for anything related to CI, this should be in the template if it's not already there. Can you go and make sure that that's the case? And the second thing is that like the extra workflow that you had added, if you had added this thing in Meshery / Meshery, you can add this over here as a row, and then add things like what is the trigger for it, what are the prerequisites, what is the area under test, what is the area under test, so that just like when Kobe said that, hey, there are so many workflows over here, what triggers what and everything. There is a central place to send people to, that you can open this particular spreadsheet and in a very human readable way you can see that, okay, so there is a workflow which runs which builds and previews the sites, and it is triggered whenever a pull request is made to the master and whenever changes are made to the UI and actually the docs actually here, and it tries to build the docs, and in under run it describes the behavior, and the type of test / build, it describes what kind of thing you're trying to do. It's is it an integration test, is it an end-to-end test, or is it even a test, or maybe it's just a build we are trying to do in a lot of cases. Also we maintain these are the lists of all the workflows that run across the adapters, and since we try to at least reach a point where all the uniformity is as such that no two adapters have deviating workflows. So to keep that thing in mind, all of these adapters are covered in a single row, and all of these have a multi-platform workflow that builds adapters for different x86 and ARM. And then you have the E2E test that I just showed you. There is an error code utility. There is building and linting tests that are common to all. Then this component to documents was recently added over here, and these are the different triggers on which it takes place. So yeah, this was an overview of this particular spreadsheet and what it does. And basically people are encouraged to use this, whether you are contributing directly to something related to CI. In that case, of course, you should refer it, or even in some other area that you're contributing to, you can always come back to this particular spreadsheet and see, go over some of these test scenarios, and to make sure that the what you're trying to do matches with what's already is an expected outcome for some of these supposed actions or test scenarios. So maybe, yeah. So that was all about this particular test plan. If anyone has any questions regarding the test plan, it's a good time to stop me and ask your questions.
Yeah, on the spreadsheet that what covers the workflows, kind of what their purpose is, when they run, what they cover, that kind of is. I didn't quite catch it, but just to clarify, is part of what you were saying, as anyone on this call it familiarizes some both with what's in here and the workflows across the repos. Are you generally encouraging people to update this spreadsheet here?
Yeah. So whenever you add workflows explicitly, you're always encouraged to, along with the link to the workflow that you just added, this thing should be updated over here. So
you might have mentioned this before, I don't recall. One thing that might help grease the wheels and encourage people to do just that is in the issue template that we have for CI issues.
Yeah, that I just said, that I just asked Aditya when I was explaining that if it's already not present, would you mind making that the case, that the template that we have for the CI issue should include this particular test plan? So yeah, I'll add that as a item for myself as well as Aditya, whoever gets to it first, to make sure that Meshery test plan is in the template for the CI issues. So yeah, we're already we have just 1 minute left. So, and I don't think Hamza is over here for his particular topic. But yeah, it was about him adding this particular. So just as I showed you the end-to-end test that we run. So currently in all of the other adapters, if you'll go over inside and this is an open ask, maybe Gopi, you can take this thing up because this is a long-standing thing. And Hamza had been he has given a lot of time over here. But if you can make this thing even quicker, then it would be nice to have multiple brains working on this one thing. So inside of here, you can see that we only try to deploy Kuma service mesh and not the add-ons or some extra stuff like the sample apps or anything. And in Istio, that's not the case. Like these are different. This one just test Istio for service mesh install, and this one is for add-ons, and then there is one for sample app. So the Istio Istio is the one adapter where most things go first, and then it's to be propagated. And a lot of times people, the delegation takes place, and then things are pretty slowed down. So one of those open PRs is one over here. Maybe you can give it a review. Maybe you can help. This is from 24 November, and in over here, Hamza was trying to, add this particular this new. So as I said, that there is always the jobs are in always pairs of 3. So the first one sets the pattern file, the second one does the tests, and third one updates the docs. And if you want to see that what particular thing it tries to test, you can always come over here in expected resource to see what assertions it's trying to make. So it's trying to see if it basically tries to deploy the emoji auto app. And the way it does it uses this particular design. And if this looks a little bit cryptic, actually Meshery supports having designs. So this particular design has multiple services, and each service can refer to another design as like a URL. And I think I don't know whether this particular URL is valid. Okay, yeah, this is valid. But yeah, his test for failing on this particular pull request. So I don't think they have still passed. So yeah, they haven't. They're still failing, and as usually. Yeah. Okay. So I had given him the reason why these tests might have been failing is because we used to have this concept of trait, which was dropped later. As I said, we go from ohm to mesh model, but yeah, uh, I think he had run this. I don't know when this job last ran, but there were some changes made to the design files that he refers to. So this should have been fixed. But I'll take this up. I'll encourage people, especially who have already had some issues, uh, who have already tackled some issues, gotten their PR merged, to look at this pull request to absorb it, maybe to make sense out of it with respect to other end-to-end tests that we have, and to propagate this thing in other adapters like Kuma and Traffic Mesh and Nginx.
Speaking of which, Alberto had a great question last night, and that was he'd seen some discrepancies between the workflows across adapters. Have we addressed that already? That should have been an agenda item. We're about out of time. That needs to be.
Yeah, Albert, did you note down the exact specifics of the discrepancies that you had found somewhere, like in the Slack message?
Yeah. Yeah, it's really simple actually. There's a couple, for example, from the top of my head, there's this Slack workflow that basically on the Istio adapter handles like 3 different workflows within the same file, and on the every other adapter has that newcomers alert something. In the Istio one, in the Istio adapter, that newcomers job, it's inside the Slack. Yeah, good first that one, and every other adapter, that's not the case. So yeah, I mean, maybe we can like merge those two Slack, because yesterday I was trying to figure out why the build for my changes on the app mesh adapter were failing. So I I was like trying to figure out myself that, and I took a look at the other workflows, and I saw some like really small differences like that. But I don't know, maybe it could cause more confusion for people like me. I don't know.
Okay, actually, yeah, that's a nice, that's one thing that I mean, we encourage people to do, is to make sure that like to report these discrepancies back, so that like this is one small thing which was overlooked, because again there are multiple adapters. So I think just like over here, like in other adapters, as you said, that we have a different one for newcomers, we should have the same should be the case in Istio as well, that this should be taken out into a different workflow, just like, so that there is uniformity across adapters. And I think you'd already mentioned that this is already the case for other adapters except for Istio. So if that's the case, would you like to take this up? Like, you can add this. Do you want to take this job out into another workflow and create a pull request on Istio adapter?
Sure, but yeah, but my question would be like, what would be the rule of thumb to decide what is the correct workflow way of separating things?
So
should we stick to the Istio, or?
Actually, a general rule of thumb is that one workflow should do one thing and it should do it good. So in here, it's trying to do 2 things, which is the Slack notification and to notify for the good first issue. So if you can basically create the separation such a way that you can, in your head, you can rationalize about it, that these are 2 different things, these are unrelated things. So usually, like inside of a single workflow, if you have jobs that are dependent on each other, then you put those jobs together. And even if they're not dependent, so for example, build test and lint test, they can be put on the same workflow. But if one is about like a general newcomers alert, and the another one is about the notification somewhere else, like, then they might be put under different workflows. Do you have any suggestions over here? Maybe you can.
That's yeah, it's a little yeah, it's some of it kind of comes down to like personal opinion, or like how do people like to work. That spreadsheet that you were reviewing a moment ago, I think, is an excellent tool for helping rationalize like how much reuse should we be trying to get, and or how is it one workflow to rule them all in that repo, or is it? Yeah, I mean, like Alberto, this might be a thread that you start to pull on that in a very good way. You might end up having a fairly sizable impact across the project, because like at row 18 in this spreadsheet, it says Golang CI lint. Well, there's a lot of repos out there, a lot of projects that we have that use Golang, and they need to be linted. And it's not the linting, the checks are like security checks and spelling checks and all these things. And so we're using that. Anyway, let me not describe a lot. Let me step back and just say, you would think that those checks would probably be uniform. And so are they? Should we be using? And so you can cross dispatch. You can reuse workflows. Maybe we don't want that. Maybe we want to copy paste. Part of what's happening with there's pros and cons either which way. And I do think that a tool like this helps us reason over where we want to draw the line and say, there should be one and only one of these. There should be many copies of that.
Yeah. So thanks for pointing it out, Alberto. I hope you I hope you find this test plan a bit helpful to rationalize few things, and you make some contributions to the test plan as well as you figure things out. Thanks for pointing it out. So yeah, we're on top of the hour. Maybe 9 minutes after. So I'll talk these few items which were left. This would be addressed in the next week, which is when the meeting would take place. So thanks for joining, everyone, and see you at the 4th Thursday of this month. And hopefully whatever open issues that we discussed today would be closed, and we'll have some new things to talk about. Hopefully test plans spreadsheet would be updated as people start to contribute to it. Thanks for joining, and see you on the next call. Bye.
Thanks, Ashish. Bye, guys.